Nick, very good to see you. Today we are talking through the four expenses that retirees almost always underestimate. And it's so important to nail down those known expenses in retirement so we can build an income plan around them. So the number one cost that we are not factoring in, travel and leisure. We want to enjoy our hard-earned retirement.
Absolutely. We want to keep that same standard of living of where we were at in our working life to where we're at in our retirement life. It's not that we want to take a big, pay cut just to get into retirement. So with this, we always have to factor in some sort of cost for travel and leisure. And what are we going to do to fill up our day, now that we're not working that 8 hours a day? Is it going to cost us money, for those activities to fill up that time? And I always find that this is one of those areas that a lot of people underestimates, what those costs are going to be inside of retirement. So we always look at three main reports. I talk about this all the time with clients of looking at an income statement, looking at an expense, statement and a balance sheet, of where our assets are at. And if we truly understand what that expense statement is, and most people, and I don't blame them, I'm the same way. I don't want to know, every single penny of where it's going, and
Right,
track it
right.
each and every month. But to really understand, how much we're spending on an annual basis, now all of a sudden we can start to back into, where our income's coming from and, what kind of assets we're going to use to get to that point. So
Mhm. Yeah, gotta include the fun money. I'm with you. Number
absolutely.
two, housing. Even if you own your home outright, you will still have expenses.
Right. So you're still going to have some upgrades to that home. As we age, we want to stay on our home, for as long as we can. But, that may require, some updates to the shower, some updates to ramps getting into the house. Making it accessible, as we age in our home. Other expenses, a new roof, if that's going to last you for the next 20 years, is that going to get you through your retirement? Air conditioning units. Unfortunately, they just don't build things today to last a lifetime. There's that um, part that we've got to replace, or that point in our life that we've got to start replacing, some of these things. And then
Right.
also, keeping up the outside of it, the maintenance, the landscaping, and all of that kind of stuff too.
Hmm.
The other big one that's not noticed, on that visual was the taxes as well. And
Right.
we're starting to see that, especially here in 2024, that tax rates in Ohio on properties, has increased significantly. So that's one other thing that, yes, we own our home, but, we still have those extra expenses.
Right, right. I'm glad you brought up taxes because that is, of course, next, as you mentioned, property taxes, but also we're still going to be paying income taxes in most cases. And a lot of people don't realize that Social Security is taxed.
Correct. Yeah. Up to 85% of your Social Security can be brought out
Mhm.
to be taxed at whatever your marginal income tax rate is at that time. But, it's all dependent on what the rest of your income is. So if we can have different sources of income to try to keep our taxable income lower, then all of a sudden, we can, keep that Social Security from, being a major part of taxable income for you.
Mhm.
But that also requires a little bit of planning. It's not just something all of a sudden we can say, hey, we want to take out $50,000 a year from Roth IRAs if we only have $50,000 in the Roth IRA.
Mhm.
We've got to build that account up over a period of years and do it in a tax efficient way to then be able to start taking some tax free income in retirement.
Mhm. And last, of course, we have healthcare. Medicare doesn't cover everything, and long-term care can wipe out your savings if you don't have insurance.
Right. So as we age, we're not always healthier. So we're going to have, some extra expenses with that. We get into those slow go to no go years. And now all of a sudden we're spending a lot of money, with the healthcare costs. We're needing, maybe 24/7 care, or maybe just a little bit of care at an assisted living or something like that. Those costs, are continually going up,
Mhm.
so we're seeing it already here in Ohio being, a few $1,000s a month. And, if we project out over the next 15 to 20 years, now all of a sudden those costs are getting even more expensive, and we're dipping into those funds, into our funds and our balance sheets, very, very quickly to be
Mhm.
able to cover for your care. side of that you mentioned is Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care. They
Right.
always they pay for short-term care, as long as you're improving. There is, some rehab care that comes with your Medicare, but that's not going to pay for a long-term care stay. Uh,
Mhm.
In-home nursing home or some sort of assisted living in between. We've got to make sure that we have the funds to be able to pay for it,
Right.
not only today but going forward.
So, Nick, then what are your tips then so that we avoid these surprise expenses in retirement?
Right. It's start to plan for them, writing them out that we can see that plan in front of us to say, hey, we've got X amount of income coming in. Yes, we want to save for today. We also want to, have fun today. Or are we, I'm sorry, we want to save for tomorrow, but we also want to have fun today, with it too. But we can't have, too much fun to where we're taking all of our nest egg, and we don't have anything, left for those long-term care expenses later on.
Mhm.
It's one of those things. Long-term care can always be kind of a closest daughter insurance. But do we want to put that on any of our children to be able to take care of us in retirement? Most of us would probably say no. We
Right.
want to be able to care for ourselves, but we also want to protect our assets, from there too. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it. It's a step-by-step process. It's not something we can just figure out all of it by sitting down for 15 minutes, but it is one of those ongoing plans to try to protect that money for as long as we can.
Right. And that's what brings peace of mind in retirement. So, Nick, if somebody wants to sit down with you with the budget sheet and the balance sheet and the income plan, did I get it all right?
You got all three of them. Yep.
Yay, I passed the test. How can they get a hold of you?
Right. So they can reach out to us online at iconberryretirement.com. They could sit down, with us there and have a conversation to get this process started, or to continue that process. Maybe they've already started a couple of those things, but want to get a second opinion, or they can reach out to us on the phone 937-498-1128 and set up an appointment that way as well.
Great. Nick, thank you.
Thanks, Erin.